I'm going to spend 100 days in Minecraft's Pixelmon mod, and by the end of the video, I'm going to have a whole team of legendaries. On day 1, we chose our starter Pokemon. I went for the newest starter, Sprigatito, while Sox went for Cyndaquil, a counter to my starter. Him and I will have 10 battles, and with each one, we're going to spin for a legendary. Whoever wins gets to steal the loser's Pokemon and can use them for the final brawl. Before that, I challenged Sox to a quick battle, but in the end, I still lost to him and his Burning Hedgehog. After healing up in the Poke Center, it was time to spin for our first legendary. To my surprise, the spinner stopped at Diancie. Not my favorite, but I guess I'll roll with it. I was a bit disappointed, but Sox on the other hand was giggling with excitement with what he got. When we threw out our Pokemon, I didn't expect it was possible to get a Miraidon that looked like it came from a Nintendo game in the 90s. Now if you want to install this mod pack, you can download the Technic Launcher, go to the options and put in 4 gigs of RAM so you don't lag, then just type in EnchantMC and you'll have everything you need. With that settled, we decided to welcome our new Pokemon by having our first official match. I have to admit, Sox opening with Miraidon was a bit unfair, but it is what it is. Now I thought I had a chance when Miraidon's attacks weren't affecting Diancie, but that bubble was quick to burst when he used a different move to defeat it. Sox may have won this round, but the challenge is far from over. So I decided to spend a few days training my team. I also caught a bunch of Pokemon along the way, and I even managed to evolve one of the Pokemon I caught. My coughing turned into wheezing, which can't be healthy. Then I explored more of the server and even saw Pokemon I had never seen before, a Nimble and a Wugtrio. After beating the Nimble to the ground, I hear Sox being giddy and saw him fighting a Poliwrath. Not only was it a good water Pokemon, it was also a decent fighting one too. While Sox managed to catch the Poliwrath, I tried catching the Wugtrio from earlier, but I accidentally killed it. The silver lining is that this led to my Sprigatito to grow into Floragato. Before our second battle, it was time to try our luck once more and roll to see which legendary Pokemon we get. I almost fell from my seat when I realized the Latias I got was 30 levels higher than the Registeel Sox got. Victory was so close that I could almost taste it. I quickly challenged Sox to our second battle and was surprised by the level gap between our starters. After my Poliwhirl put out Quilava's flames, the big sister Poliwrath came out, put Poliwhirl to sleep, then proceeded to beat him up. Just your typical sibling behavior. But the wrath of his Poliwrath didn't end there, as she took out both my Weezing and Gligar as well. Thankfully, my Latias was an absolute unit and took out 3 of his Pokemon before Miraidon came out and defeated Latias. I only had Diancie left on my team, but since his Miraidon was low, Diancie finished him off, and his level 40 Registeel didn't even stand a chance. The next day, I voted for the server with /vote and used the vote keys to get some items and some tokens I could use to buff up my team. Then I used /RTP and got teleported to the ocean. Perfect for training my Floragato. I flew around Latias as well and saw this awesome looking ship. I then asked at spawn if anyone had a super rod I could borrow. Luckily this guy gave me his, and so I was able to fish up some sacrifices for my starter. After a day's worth of feeding my catfishes and water type Pokemon, Sox and I agreed to go sightseeing for a bit. Using /P warps, we went to Young Money's island, and I just have to say, it was beautiful. Not only were there gorgeous builds like the mansion with lava falls, there were also legendaries just standing guard outside the builds. But the highlight has to be this photo gallery with every single legendary in it. After that, I went back to fishing to level up my Floragato. Sox even gave me a lure ball, which I was hesitant to take at first because taking an item from him is like making a deal with the devil. The joke's on him though, as I encountered a level 50 Azumarill. Putting aside the fact that Azumarill is a pretty tanky Pokemon, its level is high enough to deal with the majority of Sox's team. After that, Sox got to evolve his Quilava into a Typhlosion. It wasn't as explosive as I thought, especially with how small it looked, but size didn't matter, until I saw this Machoke bigger than the one I recently caught, so I caught him then switched out the smaller one. After what felt like days of battling weaker wild Pokemon, I finally got Floragato to bloom into Meowscarada. I then had something I wanted to do that required Sox's help. I wanted to trade my Machoke so it could evolve into a Machamp. I didn't expect him to show me that he owns a level 70 Scyther though. Nonetheless, my Machoke still evolved, and he was still pretty big. With everything in order with my team, it was time for me to challenge Sox to our third battle. We both began with our starters, but when Meowscarada got hit with a fire punch, I knew I had to save. And of course, we weren't gonna waste our Azumarill, so I got her out. But Sox got his Miraidon out, so I sacrificed Meowscarada instead. Since Miraidon was weak to Dragon, Latias flew in and took a solid hit, but managed to hold on enough to get one attack in to get Miraidon less than half HP. Shockingly, when Weezing floated in, Sox chose to tag Poliwrath in, but it was no match for Weezing. becoming the embodiment of pollution in cities. Typhlosion punched with the might of Thor in revenge and defeated Weezing, but not before being poisoned by him. Typhlosion thought a thunder punch would be enough to kill Azumarill, but it was met with a bubble beam to the face instead. In a sudden turn of events, he had a level 54 Simipour, but what was even more surprising was how he was able to defeat my Azumarill. This Simipour was not a Pokemon to underestimate, as it defeated my Machamp as well. It also got a hit on my Diancie before finally fainting. He brought out his Registeel next, then his Flash Cannon hit Diancie, which was super effective. Turns out Steel was Diancie's weakness, but I found out too late and paid the price for it. That loss bummed me out a bit, so I hope to get a good legendary in the next spin. I got Zarude, which was interesting because it was my first time ever seeing one. We threw out our newly obtained legendaries, and Sox got lucky and got a Mewtwo, which was level 80. Sometimes I wonder whether or not the admins of the server had beef with me. Sox was a bit too battle happy and challenged me then and there. I quickly swapped in my Azumarill for the type advantage, but his Simipour swung in and washed Weezing away. His Sea Monkey also deflated my poor Azumarill, but thankfully, Diancie put him down. When Registeel waddled to the battlefield, I switched to Latias, learning from my mistake. He did swap his Registeel to Mewtwo, so I tried to swap in Zarude, which unexpectedly worked well against Mewtwo. Latias, being a menace to Sox as always, put Scyther to the red and Registeel to the grave before Miraidon clipped her wings. While Miraidon did beat Diancie, its HP was low enough for Zarude to finish him off. By that moment, it only took a few bites to defeat Typhlosion and Mewtwo. Zarude was the unexpected MVP of this match. The next day, we decided to warp to the Ultra Space and explore around in zero gravity. We saw this Electro Den and gave it a shot. We made quick work of the oversized ball, and I managed to stuff it in an even smaller ball. After beating a few more dens, I got some EXP candies and used them to level up Zarude. With Ultra Space being swarmed with high-level Pokemon, we decided to find a place that would be good to level up our team. Putting aside how funny it was that we needed to train Pokemon equivalent to gods and legends, we trained with the wild Pokemon on the platform. Since a lot of the wild Pokemon's levels were really high, we went to other platforms. I encountered a little Axew, caught it, and gave it some candy. It dawned on me that at this point, I have become a standard Minecraft content creator. After that, I saw this level 100 Lurantis that I wanted to catch, but just like that, Sox swooped in and stole it from me. Luckily, Sox accidentally killed it, which was great news for me. After days of grinding on the platform, we went back to spawn and used up the remaining candies I got to level up Zarude. With the leftover candies I had, I gave them to Axew, and she evolved into Fracture. Then, I used another one to evolve her into Haxorus. After that, we went to another platform in the Ultra Space. That's when I saw this Gibble, so I tried catching it. After letting my team play around in the sand with the other Pokemon, my Gibble grew tired and evolved into Gabite. I also caught a level 72 Darmanitan and saw another one of the same level, and sacrificed that to the gem god Diancie. Gabite finally evolved into Garchomp after one more battle. They grow up so fast. However, the highlight of our time on the platform was when I caught this level 98 Pangoro. Shortly after obtaining him, I went to face off against my rival Sox for our 5th battle. After getting wrecked by Sox, I had to change some of my team's moves, so I talked to this old man and he gave my team a crash course on how to defeat Sox and make him quit Minecraft and Pokemon forever. After that, we had our next legendary spin and I got a Jirachi. Maybe Sox got unlucky as well and got another level 40 legendary, but alas, Sox got an Arceus, the god of all Pokemon. After this challenge, I might need to change up some admins. Regardless of whether he gets the god of all Pokemon or the god of time, I wasn't giving up and we had our 6th battle. Because I was caught up in Sox getting an Arceus, I forgot about his Pangoro for a bit and got reminded of how much of a menace it was after beating 5 of my Pokemon. When Zarude finally got rid of Pangoro, that's when Arceus came out. I was nervous at first, but it turns out Zarude had the power to transcend God. It didn't have the power to transcend motorcycles, however, as Miraidon just ran him over and won Sox another battle. The next day, we explored more of Ultra Space and fought a Volcarona Den. For a change, Diancie and Mewtwo worked together while the 2 Salazzles were just watching our Pokemon do all the work. I then saw this level 78 Machoke and caught it. Just like what I did before, I asked for Sox's help the next day to evolve my Machoke, so we went to trade our Pokemon. When we tried trading back, Machoke evolved into Machamp. We planned to go to the Battle Tower next, so I took the liberty of going to the move relearner and taught my team some new moves. Then we went to the tower and battled a few trainers willing going to get beaten up for the sweet, sweet candy. Of course, they weren't easy battles, as I lost to a couple of trainers, but I managed to beat most of them at least. The next day, we once again entered the battle tower with the same goal in mind, to get as many rare candies as humanly possible. However, our luck said otherwise, as these trainers beat the daylights out of our supposedly legendary Pokemon. After an unfortunate attempt at the battle tower's last floor, we decided to let go of our frustrations and try to relax a bit. How, you may ask? By letting our Pokemon murder each other. My ego was at an all-time high as I managed to pick up a win against Sox. But I didn't stop there, as it was once again time to spin for legendaries, and I got Chien-Pao. Just when I was about to boast about it, Sox showed me what he got. It was Palkia. It's like comparing Godzilla to Garfield. Maybe this legendary cat Pokemon can pull off a David versus Goliath. So once again, we face each other for the 8th battle. I once again won against Sox thanks to Chien-Pao, so I immediately started celebrating by jumping around spawn. I was on a winning streak, so in order to keep my momentum going, I had to keep getting stronger. I also used the tokens I won at the battle tower to level up my team and make them all level 100. After that, I decided to refine the team's cards by making them learn new moves at the Poké Center. I was really confident in my team's firepower, so we went to test our team's might at the Tainted Gym. I spectated Sox's battle against his NPC and was surprised by how strong he was. Well, there's always a bigger fish in the sea. Seeing a freshly defeated Sox humbled me, so as his rival, I did what only a few good people would do, and that is to challenge him to another battle. Darmanitan went up against his Palkia, but I decided that it wasn't his time yet, so I sent out Jirachi, which put up decent damage against Palkia, but failed to defeat it. Next up was Chien-Pao, which took out Palkia again. I swapped him with Diancie and went up against Typhlosion. After defeating Typhlosion, Diancie was put to rest by Registeel, so Darmanitan melted the iron out of him. Rhydon was next, and Darmanitan got waterboarded, so I sent out Latias. An unexpected turn of events happened as Miraidon defeated Latias and Chien-Pao. Zarude was our last card. I was sure that I could kill off Miraidon, but Sox withdrew the Pokemon and sent God. Arceus, of course, which took out Zarude, ending my winning streak. As tradition, we spin for legendaries for the final time, and I managed to get a Marshadow. Sox, on the other hand, received Zapdos, a bird version of Zeus. The day passed and we agreed to go to the battle tower again and defeated the last floor. We quickly climbed up the stairs and started blasting. I managed to defeat the overpowered NPCs, and we found ourselves stacked with rare candies. I donated these candies to Marshadow, giving him diabetes and power at the same time. Hopefully these candies are enough to give Sox nightmares during his sleep. It was finally time to battle for the very last time. Marshadow went up against Registeel, but was swapped with Zapdos. Zapdos then defeated Marshadow, and Registeel also came back and finished off Diancie. Chien-Pao came out to defeat Registeel, but was quickly greeted by Arceus. I sent out Zarude and managed to defeat Arceus. Latias was my next pick, and she quickly defeated Mewtwo. I found myself really abused by Sox's Stealth Rock, but luckily my team had a wish Pokemon. Jirachi came out and defeated Palkia, but then Miraidon came out and literally burned Jirachi's wishes away. The last matchup was really intense, but it was Sox's win, which meant I had to give up 6 of my Pokemon. So we headed to spawn and told my Pokemon that I had to get some milk while Sox adopted them. After successfully trading the Pokemon, I made sure that Pangoro shifted to the dark side, the good side, so that I can have my turn in having this beast of a Pokemon for myself. Now that we found ourselves with a new lineup of Pokemon, it only meant one thing. In the end, I got the final win against Sox using his own team. Like Icarus flying too close to the sun, his own team was his undoing. With that, we finally accomplished this legendary team challenge. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you want to humiliate your friends, you can join the server by following the instructions below or by typing in the IP on the screen. Your love and support mean everything to me, and I will catch you all next time.